Morning, evening, afternoon, night, day, time. This is the LAMDA log, week 11, day 1, November the 24th, 2025. This is the first day of the last week of our skills classes, so we're checking off classes. We're finishing some today, and then tomorrow tomorrow we have rehearsals. On Wednesday, we'll finish some more. On Friday, we'll finish the rest of our skills classes. And then next week is performing our projects, and there's a winter concert, a cotillion. We start some stuff for next semester, next term, which is like intro to Spanish dance and Jacobean stuff. So we're excited. Shout out, Sandridge. So we started up with a warm-up. We weren't in John Wood today, which is what it is. We were in Studio 9, so all the way up on the top floor, which they call the second floor, because the first floor, American first floor, is the ground floor. Then above that, our second floor is the first floor, then third floor. Well, second. Ground, first, second. We would say first, second, third. Anyway, so we started out with Jess's class, and we had to do a warm-up, our own warm-up, which was partly what we were presenting. And then we presented our text that we chose. So, yeah, so during the warm-up, I wrote down kind of my warm-up for her class, and I focused on the 5 progressions of voice: release, breath, phonation, resonance, articulation. So for release, I did a spinal roll, I did some floor work, some stretches, my neck and my side, swinging my arms, kind of a thing. Then for breath, I did beach ball breath on a sh, and a z, and I did the candles. Then for phonation, I did some droning on vowels, I, U, kind of get those. Then for resonance, I did speaking the months to specific locations, some sirens on some trills, and some open vowels. Then for articulation, I did lion face. Right. I did the licking teeth one. Tongue twister. I didn't actually get time for the tongue twister, but I was ready for it. I was going to do the one we chose, that their Theo thinks that they thought Thursday was the 3rd. Or seldom sold our suckers or sugar sucrin. Seldom sold our suckers or sugar. Seldom sold our suckers or sugar saccharin sweets in seashell-shaped suppositories. And then I did some plosives. So I did that one a little bit too. And Jess was actually got caught up by a train or something. Was a little late, and she was being observed. So the observationist came in and said, "Just start your warm-ups." So we did that. And then she came in shortly after, and so yeah. So after that, what does that say? Mouthed. Oh, we mouthed our text, keeping it light and precise, and then we whispered it. And while we whispered, we focused on our alignment, right? And then we did full voice, focusing on the images. Then we sat in a circle and presented. And she reminded us to think of this as a working presentation, not a formal performance. Before beginning, take a moment to see and be seen, right? So you stand up there, take everyone in, let them take you in, and then I'll be doing The Waves, an excerpt by Virginia Woolf, something like that. So the first student went and did The Waves, and then I just wrote some things to focus on and keep in mind, and then an emphasis on my own. but the first student with the waves is loved the use and length of the vowels and pitch variation, dynamics, as well as attention to articulation, improvement in alignment, to improve free your arm from drawing out the images and rely on your voice more. Look for even more flow. It will allow more ease in the breath, which I thought was interesting. Then the next student did Under the Milkwood, and such enjoyment of the vowels and consonant sounds, great connection to the images, great quadrant work. Nice. It was nicely memorized, which allowed him to open things up. Working on releasing tension and the pushing effort. Receive from the space instead of pushing it out. Taking a breath through the mouth instead of just through the nose. It's easier with the mouth. It's more of a direct path, and you can just let the breath drop in. Like, think if you're underwater and you come out and you've been holding your breath, right? You really let that drop in, and then release the knees. The next student went and did the wave. Great connection to the imagery. Great light and crisp. Good pitch variation. Nice stresses, creating a moving pulse. Improvement in alignment, but over time, but pay attention to it throughout the speech, that you keep it actively aligned. And there's some pitching forward, which is hard because we were standing and then everyone was sitting in a circle around, so there was an inclination to meet them instead of bring them to you. Work on disrupting the breath so that you can allow the breath and welcome the control. So if you disrupt the breath, like you do some jumping jacks or something before, and then you try to say your speech, and then you mark all the times where you naturally want to breathe. Then the next student did The Beloved, an excerpt from that novel, and a nice sense of control in the story. I don't know what this is. Revolve? Reflection. It looks like pretty is recollection. Oh, ha! Poetry is recollection captured in tranquility, which I thought was a fun little quote. I'm going to sneeze. So poetry is recollection captured in tranquility, and so there's a removal from the emotions a little bit, but it's still like in there. So it was a little, just remember to be energized, find a bit more activity and urgency. A few lines kind of dropped at the end. That's a problem I have a lot. A sense of opinion was great, but go further. What is the narrator's opinion on this or on that? Very smooth, but could be bolder with some choices. The next student did an excerpt from Ulysses, and great sense of opinion and risk-taking, improving, finding more melody, and looking for that resonance. Pacing had a great ebb and flow to it. Last run was nice and connected. At times, it felt like the pace was kind of running him more than him running the pace. Like he had a good clip to it, but it felt like he was behind it a little bit. Voice squeezed a bit and improved grounding. The next student did the waves. Great open body, articulation, connection to the images. The voice changed with those images. What's your connection to those images, right? Find that opinion. Tendency to knee bob a little bit, so let the voice do the expression. Great breath improvement. Then the next student did Ulysses. Great connection to the different images, specifically at different images, specificity, and wonderful opinions. Nice connection to the listeners and connecting those thoughts, which creates more space, right? If you connect with the audience, it gives you a second to kind of have that time in that moment, have a good breath and improve the pace. Nice dynamics and pace, melody, pitch. Fix the tightening of the jaw, pay attention to that. Seeing and being seen, kind of lifted his shoulders a little bit. So just kind of relax in that and allow yourself to be seen. Then I went and I did the waves, and I had lovely energy, vowel with the consonant and with some nice consonants. I settled more into it with time, but I need to connect those images. My connection to those images grew, but I need to get that like from the beginning, right? My breath seemed a little high and shallow, especially at the beginning, and I dropped lines, dropped the end of lines, especially at the beginning. I need to connect to the weight and the visuals from the beginning. Yeah. Still a bit to go. Then the next student did the excerpt from Beloved. It was lovely, light, clear articulations with consonants and vowel length. There was an opinion, but it was mostly in the face, right? And not heard as much in the voice. So find that connection to the voice and not just the face, not just the physical, but the vocal as well. Allow more space between thoughts that will center the breath and illustrate more, and then improve the melody and pushing through to the end of the line. That's a me thing too. Different expression, voices with different perspectives. That one's very narrative because there's different characters and explaining those different feelings from those characters. So how does those characters feel, and kind of take on them that opinion. And then the next person went and did the waves. Very well connected, took the space, a lot of control, and the ability to play with all the detail. Melody and dynamics were great. But the nitpick is kind of like, why are you telling the story? And more than just the enjoyment of the words and the sounds. Such beautiful work, but to level it up next is to get connection to the point and the idea. Then the next student did the Sherlock Holmes excerpt, and there was a little confusion on if that was one of the available texts to read or not. So, but that's fine. There was nice attention to the listener and good pitch variation. A little more time with it to find the thoughts and connecting deeper breath to that, because there's that pace with that one that's really pushing it. Then the next student did the waves. Lovely sense of discovery and excitement and energy. Enjoyment of the consonants, rounding off ends of words. Like instead of dropping ends, rounding and finding those words, really playing to it. It needs a little more in spaces and a little less in others to kind of find that balance. Takes the space well, explore the lower range more, chest and lower voice, occasionally enjoying key words and slowing down the flow and the pace. The next student did Under the Milkwood. Nice take on it, very playful with good brightness, great sense of bringing in the listeners, still found differences in consonant sounds, occasionally underpitching and throwing things away, lost thoughts and intention. Should place yourself more in it, communicating on it, like you're looking around and you're seeing that, and make it a little more present. And can we be light and intentional, right? Because he was able to do that. And so just because it's light doesn't mean it can't be intentional or specific. It's not just like meanderingly light. Centering. Then the next student did Beloved. Improvement in using height will be better if you lift the paper higher, because that won't drop your head, right? Make sense of the character and opinion. Clear articulation, more relaxed. Find more flow through the line. There is a fragmented, breaking up kind of feeling in the line, so make sure that you get that flow and that connection to the ideas. Be with those characters, finding their mindset, their rhythm. Or, that's one way, which was offered before, or have the mindset solely on the narrator and your opinion of them, and have a strong character, an opinion as narrator. You can either kind of assume the attitudes and ideas and rhythms of the characters, or be an outside perspective commenting strongly. Don't dismiss your work. Some right space taking is at the beginning and at the end. Like after you do it, don't be like, eh. Right? A lot of times we undermine ourselves. We do something that's fine, we're like, eh. It's like when somebody like gives a speech or something. It's like, I didn't really prepare. I didn't really have time to do this, so this is the best I got. It's cutting yourself short, because some people might not think that, but it's a defense mechanism, right? This student was also off book, which really helps with connection. Remember to plant yourself a little more, explore the chest and the full range of pitch. Allow images to affect you more and find the differences. Locate the images even more. Then the last student did the waves and really playful choices using every tool in the box, pitch, volume, connected to breath and flow. A challenge for him is to allow the images to affect him some more. Instead of making the voice interesting, have it clearer intent and clearer purpose behind it. Then we took a little 5-minute break, and then we talked about one thing we are taking from this class forward into the next. We were reminded of our vocal practice, the p, t, k, k, t, p, p, t, k, k, t, p, p, t, k, k, t, p, b, d, g, g, d, p, p, d, g, g, d, p, b, d, g, g, d, p, v, d, d, v, no, v, 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 d, d, the, v, v, d, 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 hard. And then I want to work on breath and not dropping the ends of my sentences. Oh, and then I want to send, make sure to send thank you emails to all of my tutors. Then we had lunch, and then scene study with Karen. And we ran our Hamlet scenes with those who haven't gone. In the first group, you must not tell other actors what to do, but be present and work with whatever you give, with whatever you get, and give what you want, right? The next group went and they were struggling with connection and communication, and it was a little rough. And so Karen dismissed, rough in Karen's eyes, you know, but she's the teacher and she's brilliant, truly. But she dismissed the Bernardo and Marcellus and sat them on blocks and just had them talk it out, which was really great way to kind of minimize all of the distractions and just get to the communication. She asked them, like, how do you think that went? And the answer was meh. And she's like, articulate meh. What does that mean? And she said it seemed out of body, and she wanted to stop them a few times but didn't. And she wanted to know how much preparation there was, because it felt really disconnected and felt like it was a first time reading. So need to have a level of confidence when dealing with the text. And she's very blunt. Phrases like, it wasn't good, so how do we make it better? Just talk to each other while sitting down, just to stabilize them and bring it back to the basics. And then they got up to that, and they were communicating, and she's like, add a bit of blocking, and you could even get up, unless it will mess you up. And so get up and they got up and they did it again. And you must come to rehearsal prepared. Even holding a script, you need to be able to use the text, and don't rush it. Use the punctuation. And to Karen's credit and quality as a teacher, she said that, I actually think you're good, but you're throwing a lot of it away, right? A lot of stuff away. No, sorry, I misread that. I think you're actually good, but you're throwing a lot of stuff in the way. And she kind of validated her and said, we're working on this, we're seeing what happened and how to fix that and avoid it in the future. And then prepare, be bolder and braver, think about what you're receiving. Then the next group went, and it was the award for best communication between Horatio and Hamlet. The Hamlet had lovely energy, but a bit of getting ahead of herself. It fell apart in listening to things a little bit at the end. From did you speak to it? It kind of lost the connection. The ending is boring because it needs urgency, and it lost that urgency. So then we switched to this to Solid Flesh. And I was like, no, my partner and I didn't get to go. I was like, no, I worked so hard on this. We had 2 extra rehearsals. But then one of our classmates went, and they freaking killed it. They're so talented. Every time they perform, I'm just like, what a grasp and control of the text. I just always super impressed. And then went straight into the scene because they hadn't done their scene yet. And it was the new best communication, really great use of the language. It was joyful, even in the pain, right? You can afford to be still. That was like the one constructive thing. Like, you can afford to be still. It's so powerful, and has great presence. Then my partner got to go, and I was like, can I please do the scene? I haven't done it yet. And she was like, yeah, just go into the scene afterwards. I was like, oh, sick. And it worked. I think the exact thing she said was, that was actually pretty good, which is a huge compliment for me because I have struck out in her class every time. She said, good job. She said there was an ease with the language, and it seemed like we were friends and really different, but in the same world. And then a reminder that we need to like Hamlet. Hamlet can be insufferable, can be wishy-washy and overly dramatic and stuff, and so we need to like him. And then when you do a soliloquy and get the job, it's those that bring the room in. They connect with the people talking and share it with the audience. Those are the ones who book the gig and get the job. Why are we speaking? It was one note and rushed, and there is a drive and a pace to this speech. A lot of demonstration means you're outside of the character. Keep it simple. I had a nice beginning, but I got caught up by the text and lost the audience and my physicality. I shut off the audience, so I need to keep it open and prepare more, which is totally fair, and I recognize because I was focused so much on the scene that I did not give a lot of work to the soliloquy. And so I took what I could I took some from what other people's notes got, and then I tried to incorporate that. But it was what it was. And then in preparation, I need to practice my choices so that I'm not like behind myself or stuck in the script. I think I have an idea as I'm doing it, and then my choice is a little behind what should have been the instigation for the choice when I'm not practiced. So that was that. We were going over, and so we had a 30-minute break, but we really went into that. We went 25 minutes into it to finish, but she excused anyone who needed to go. And then we had movement with Nicoletta, and we worked on our final presentation because we had prepared something. We had this song and this kind of narrative, and it's what I talked about last week, but we practiced it again and tried to clean it up. And so we had these angular sleep, 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 and then others popping up. I'll meet you there. I'll meet you there. And then they met in the center, and then we circled around them, and then we created the song. I'll meet you there. I'll meet you there. That was mine. There. And then I can't remember the bass line. We sang it over and over again. Ooh, I don't know. I don't remember. But then I introduced a whistle, which was the danger, and then I pulled some other whistlers out, and then there was the threat, and then they pulled us in, and we got absorbed into it. And then the song came back, and we melted away. And so, and so we brought that, and Nicoletta wasn't too happy with it. I don't know. It lacked clarity, and we were holding on to that. And we get very intellectual at my group, and so we're like, okay, what does that look like, or what do you want from us? And we spent a lot of time talking. So we just went for it, and we clarified it. And so what we did instead is we had these paths. Instead of just having these right turns and very straight, we had a single path, and we walked forward, and then we walked backwards, and we were on that path. And then we had the person come around and stop us and say, don't go back to sleep, which we had before. But then we had a circular fluid pattern. This whole time, the field people, I'll meet you there, were kind of on the ground as the field. And then after everyone was chosen and woke up, they started doing I'll meet you there, and they became in the center. And then my group, the sleepers, all became the wolves. And then we started with these very feral, animalistic shapes and introduced that danger. And then it kind of dissolved into a more pedestrian intimidation, and that's where the whistling entered. And then we pulled out somebody from this. What is that sound? There's like an accordion or like an evil ice cream truck at 6:30 in the morning. Anyway, so we pulled someone out, and then we had this circling, and then they threw us in, and then there's some body movement, and then one by one we went and grabbed the person who we had taken out originally, and then we ended with one person, and we kind of had this drone of the bass line, whatever it was, and then it stopped and got still, and then we brought him into it. And so that took the whole class to figure out, and it was a little frustrating, our process. I don't know how good we are at communicating all the time. But then we were able to present it afterwards. So after class, we all got together and did our presentations. Class C went first, and they had a great use of the text, and it was a lot more poetry. And they were saying, like, I'm sorry, and being brave. And it was cool. And then we went, and then Class A went, which was very kind of visceral and together. It was super cool. And then afterwards, we discussed it as a group, and then we opened up the discussion to the whole of us. And then Ollie wasn't able to be there, so Nicoletta filmed it for him. And then we are all pretty intellectual, and we need to just go for it and put it into our bodies and then see how that works. We like to discuss things and understand it before we go for it. And then as a group, we struggle a little bit in this class. And so we got together and discussed our classes, also what we liked about others. And then after opening the entire discussion up, the movement can be a starting point for our thesis projects. And we talked about how we don't always have to start with the text. How can you change atmosphere with your bodies? It's easy with lights and music, but how do you do it physically? We are training to become actors and performers. There is always an implied audience. How do we include them? An audience helps to amplify and direct the work. Clarity is not necessarily structure. It's not the same. Spirals are about efficiency. Nature is not direct with straight lines, but there's this natural, organic way of things. And then bring this power into what you're doing next, right? connect the threads. There is no compartmentalization in the school, but everything can influence and inform the next thing. Be prepared to be like seaweed, right? That's a Nauvoo term, seaweed. Like be grounded, but be flexible. Offer a lot, but be flexible and malleable. Be playful, and then be curious about the thing that hasn't yet manifested or has not yet been created. Be curious about that. What is it? Can you find it? And that was Monday, last day of movement, last day of scene study with Karen, last day of practical voice with Jess as it stands. We're going to be with Jess again next term doing accents and dialects, which I'm quite excited about. But that was the day. Blessings, life, enjoyment. And I think we also worked on it that morning, our thing. So we got there early and worked on it. But I hope y'all have a great day. Love you lots. Bye.